Welcome to the Rustic Garden Homestead. Today's video is all about growing radishes indoors, getting them to a nice size. I'll go over the whole process with you. Growing leafy greens, that's lettuce in the front, endive in the back, and arugula, spinach, you get the idea. We're going to talk about ways that you can grow these to a harvesting size indoors. Also going to go over growing peas. You're not going to get pea pods, but you can cut off the tendrils right here, use them in salads. And please subscribe. I'll show you how to grow just about everything indoors. I have rosemary there, tomatoes up top, thyme, more cool weather crops, all kinds of herbs, vegetables, and flowers can be started indoors. Save yourself some money, get them outside. But let's get started with the radishes. Just wanted to show you the harvest real quick. The lettuce, the greens were a little bit early to harvest, but I wanted to give you an idea what you would get. Radishes look great. There are about 20 of them in there. Keep them watered, especially when they get to the size you saw in the beginning of the video. They need the moisture. They will dry out quickly, so you're gonna have to be watering every other day. Harvested some of the endive, some of the oak lettuce, arugula, spinach, and ended up with a bowl that looks like this. These are also the tendrils that are in here. You know, that is, a good start for a salad. All the leafy greens from the radishes are right there. The ones that are a little bit more tender, less of the little spines on there, could go right into the salads. Once you add vinegar to them, they soften up, but you could saute, you could use them however you wish. The leafy greens are going to take about 60 days to mature. Radishes somewhere between 30 and maybe 50 days, depending on the variety you're growing. But you can have complete success growing in these foil baking trays. These are just half trays. You could use full trays. You can use whatever you want. The first half of the video will show you how to get these set up and growing. I'll go over some basic information now. Second half of the video will actually show the growing process of these different plants over, I don't know, about a 6-week period of time. To get started, what you want at minimum is a foil baking tray. These are easy to get. You can repurpose them, get them in bulk at Costco or someplace like that. Today, again, January 15th, these were started on December 2nd, around that time. So this is about, 6 weeks of growth for the radishes, for the spinach, arugula, and leafy greens back there. Nice growth. Radishes are typically ready in about 45 days from germination, so it's pretty close. Minimum, you want 2 inches of depth to your foil trays. That's about 5 centimeters. We're using 2 trays. The top tray has holes in them. The bottom tray is for watering. I'll show you how to do that in the second part of the video. Leafy greens, radishes definitely can grow indoors. I'm growing them under basic white LED shop lights. Check out the video description. It will link all the videos that I talk about lights and seed starting mix, etc. in the video description. And it will give you all the information you need to do what we're doing here. So, basic starting mix in there. When the plants are this size, you're going to probably have to water these at least every other day. And then you want to fertilize them 1 time a week with any water-soluble fertilizer. I do not put any other fertilizers in here, organic granular, worm castings, anything like that. It's just starting mix to start. And then after the seeds are germinating and growing, I'm watering them about once a week with a water-soluble fertilizer. When they're really small, maybe every 10 to 14 days. But once they take off and get to size, you're going to need regular fertilizer. The fertilizer should be well below a 555 NPK. You can use organic, you can use chemical, whatever you want. But if you're using stronger fertilizers that are like a 24, 816 NPK, you want to cut that down by at least a quarter. Get the NPK, nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium number below that 555 NPK. And you really do want more nitrogen for these crops for growing indoors. The reason you don't want high fertilizers in here is because they're going to concentrate in the soil and it can cause problems. So low and steady feeding. That's all you really have to do to grow beautiful radishes indoors. I mean, take a look at these. These are nice size. Let's take one out. Just going to try and rinse off some of the dirt or off the root over the tray. I mean, that is a beautiful radish grown inside. Nothing wrong with it. Nice and solid. We'll also do some harvesting. I'll cut these up. Just show you what you get out of here. You can eat the greens. They're a little kind of spiny, I guess, on there, but just saute them down. They're excellent in stir fries, scrambled eggs, but you can eat this entire radish, and we grew them just in these foil baking trays. You can grow any radish like this. I think these are scarlet. Any globe radish will do well. French breakfast grows more quickly, maybe ready in 30 days instead of 45 days. Let me just show you the harvest real quick, and then we're going to just plant right back into here. I'm going to try and pull out the nicer sized radishes. There's 3 good ones. Not all of them are going to totally develop. Now I could let these grow a little bit longer. You know, as I'm taking out the larger radishes, there's going to be more root space for these guys that are a little bit smaller. They're going to get larger. You just don't want them growing really past 60 days. Again, these are at about 45 days. So here we have, you know, the first harvest, which is pretty nice bunch of radishes out of here. I mean, this one's good size too. Radishes still might split. If your water's uneven, they're going to split. But that is a nice harvested radishes just out of this little tray. And these little guys, I mean, there's nothing wrong with those. You know, there's about 3 or 4 more in there. Okay, let me clean this up, and we're going to plant right back into here. So this is cleaned up. This is just a basic starting mix, and I'm just going to break up all the roots. Fluff it up a little bit. Now, I pretty much planted these pretty densely. Let's just do a quick count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. About 25 radishes in here. You could go with, you know, maybe 20. Maybe they'll get a little bit bigger. But these are a good size. So you're filling the starting mix, or the tray with starting mix all the way to the top. No added fertilizers or anything in here. And then it's set up like this. There's holes in the bottom, probably 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You want this to be bottom watered so that the water comes up evenly, takes care of the plants. When you first put the seeds in and you're trying to top water, it's messy, it can be a problem. Bottom water. So I would just fill this tray about 1/4 of the way with water, and then just gently sit this on there. The water's going to seep up, and that's how I water most of my seed starts. And again, the video description will give you more information about the starting mix, using boiling water to make sure you don't get fungus gnats, the lighting, all kinds of stuff. So once this is set up, you know, pat it down, press it in. You don't want this to be super loose. You want it to be nice and firm, because this is all the soil the radishes have. And then I just press in, you know, like 1/4 of an inch. We'll do 4, 8, 12. In this case we have 16. You could pack in more. 4, 8, 12, 16. We're just going to, let me find the radishes. We're going to put in 2 radishes per hole. You're going to thin them down to 1. You'll see that in the second part of the video. I'm using Cherry Bell this time, and I'm just taking 2 seeds and dropping them in each depression. 3 fell in that one. You're going to thin them down after germination. And this does not take up a lot of space under your grow lights. The radishes are beautiful. They're going to taste great in January. Need a couple more seeds. And radishes will be one of the first crops that I get into my garden in March. So the radishes are in just that quick, and then you just go over the soil. You have radishes planted, and they're going to look, you know, as good as the radishes right here, maybe better, depending on how you do. I forgot to water these for a couple of days. There were some issues, but just look how beautiful they look. meaning they're really nice. So the next thing I want to talk about are the leafy greens. Let me lift this up. Same tray, same depth. This is Endive. There are 3 Endive plants here. I was growing these more for transplants. You can get in and then you just get a knife, butter knife, and cut out the roots. These make beautiful transplants. So you can grow transplants this way. And then I have, how many do I have here? 3 lettuces right in here. That's kind of, you know, pretty tight if I wanted to grow these to size. But these are at about 45 days worth of growth. They're going to get to maturity around 60, 70 days. I can harvest the leaves, you know, between everything that you see here. I'm going to get a nice bowl of salad today, and I'm going to show that to you at the end. But if you wanted to grow these to larger size, maybe larger leaves, something, you know, with a little more bite than these small leaves, you could put in 1 lettuce, 2 lettuce, 1 endive, 2 endive, 4 into the corners and just let them grow. There's nothing different than how I showed you to plant the radishes. You would just make a depression about 1/4 inch wherever you want the seeds to go. 2 or 3 seeds per hole. You don't want to wait around for 1 seed to germinate. It doesn't. So then you just thin them down to a single plant. But you can grow lettuce that way. The arugula grows really well. And you can see here how large this arugula plant is. Now I have 6 arugula plants in here. Again, these are set up to cut out, used for transplants. And, you know, they're going to kind of fight for space. But if you put in 2 arugula plants, they're going to get massive. These leaves are nice and spicy, nice dark green, same feeding schedule as I explained. The spinach, there's 6 plants here. That's way too many, maybe 2 or 3 plants there. But you could, you know, overplant, keep them well watered, keep them well fed, and then you just harvest, you know, baby leaves, depending on how many you wanted to grow. This is just half of a flat right here, and it's doing beautifully. Key is you want at least 2.5 inches in depth, maybe 5 centimeters. The peas are really cool because you're not growing for flowers and pods. You're growing to basically snip off the tendrils here. They taste just like peas. They can be put into salads. They're absolutely delicious. And peas will just keep growing and growing. Just keep them watered, keep them fed, and you're going to have lots of leafy greens from your peas. These are tender. They're delicious. You know, you're looking for something like this, and these would go right into the salad, which is what I'm going to do. But, you know, 4 flats here. Radishes are completely ready. These are more baby greens. I could pick them now. You can grow these indoors. They're beautiful. Today is December 5th. The radishes on the right, arugula on the left. They were planted on December 2nd. So in about 3 days, they germinate. If it's 7 days, 10 days past planting time, you might have a problem with these. But at 65 degrees Fahrenheit, 18.3 degrees Celsius, the plants germinate really quickly. So the arugula, your radishes are going to be some of the first plants to germinate, probably within 3 to 5 days. In about 5 to 10 days, depending on the temperatures in your grow area, your radishes are going to look something like this. If you planted more than 1 seed, thin them down to 1 plant. There's one that I missed. Just remove, there's another one back there. Just thin them down to a single plant. If the top is nice and brown, there's still plenty of moisture in there. The rest of the video will show you how to water, when to fertilize. But as long as this is dark up here, there's plenty of moisture for your radishes to grow. For me, this is actually 5 days later. I planted these on December 2nd. Today is December 7th. You know, pretty nice growth. The radishes were thinned down. They've been growing for a couple more days. And they look pretty good. They're going to be a little maybe tall and leggy. Not because they don't have enough light. You know, we're only about 1 inch, 2 inches, 2.5, 5 centimeters above the plants. That's plenty. Because it's warm in here, 65 degrees Fahrenheit, 18.3 degrees Celsius, the cool weather crops tend to get a little bit leggy. It's just warm, so they grow really fast. Not much you can do about that. The plants have been growing nicely. Top of the soil is starting to get a light color. it's almost time for watering. When it goes from a dark saturated brown to a light brown, and I pick this up and it's kind of light, I know that it's ready to water. You're also looking for your first time to really fertilize, and that's when the plants start getting their first true leaves. You can see a little leaf coming out here. These are the leaves that break the surface. These are the true leaves. So today I'm just going to water them. Next watering, when this kind of goes through the water I put in today, I'm going to put in a diluted water-soluble fertilizer, and that will feed and take care of the radishes. But they look pretty good. Let me show you how I water these. I'm going to use the peas as the example for watering. I already watered the radishes a little bit earlier and forgot to do the video. So, half foil baking trays, perfect for growing different crops indoors. If you want to follow me, I'll be doing a video on just the peas right here. You can see how it's light brown over here, starting to lighten. The water's being used up. The peas are getting larger. We have 2 trays. This one has holes in it in the bottom. And let me just move that up here. Hopefully it doesn't fall. And then this one doesn't have holes. We're going to fill this with the water about a quarter, third of the way. And we're going to bottom water. This way we're not splashing any of this soil out from up top. And you're just going to lay it right in there. It's going to float. You can see it floats a little bit. And all the water is going to get absorbed up through the bottom. This should get to a nice dark brown, like the one right over here. I just planted some spinach in there. And then you just wait. Once this turns a light color, this will get dark, turn a light color again. That's when we would water. And if the plants are larger, we'd be putting in some water-soluble fertilizer. Today is December 20th. The radishes are 18 days old. They look really good. Now they just have a thin red stem. This is supposed to bulb and be round like a radish, of course. Sometimes from growing indoors, it's warm. The radishes sometimes don't seem to bulb well. Now, you can cut the greens, you can use them in salads, you can plant them more densely if you just want to grow for radish greens. These will probably work. It seems to be no fail if you grow French breakfast. They tend to form nicely all the time regardless of the temperature. So we'll see how these go. But right now, they're doing well, 18 days in. Top of the soil is light. Waited a couple of days. When you pick this up, it's light, it's ready. They're ready to be watered. Now, at this point, I'm going to fill up my jug of water with some fertilizer. Any water-soluble fertilizer at a very low dose. It just has to be well below a 5.55 NP and K. You don't want to over-fertilize any of your plants because the fertilizer can concentrate in a different starting mixes and cause a problem. So just a light feed. They mostly need nitrogen. We're going to fill the tray with the fertilizer and water and feed the radishes. Slow and steady feed with the fertilizer, keeping the numbers, the NP and K, well below a 5.55. Fill the tray about a quarter of the way. And this is how I water, this is how I feed them. Just keep the amount of fertilizer in the gallon of water you're using at a really smaller dose. You can always add more fertilizer if the plants look a little bit yellow. Add in a little more fertilizer or fertilize them again. But you can't pull the fertilizer out of the ground. So slow and steady is the way to do it. Once you have the water in the tray, the fertilizer in the tray, just drop this in and just let it float there. The water will absorb from the bottom. The top is going to get nice and dark. That'll let you know everything is saturated, and then you're good to go. And you just keep an eye on things. Today is December 30th. I think it's been about 10 days since the last update, and the radishes are starting to form. They're nice and tough. The leaves are thick. If you get in there every day and you just kind of rub the leaves, kind of mimics the wind and it helps them just be a little bit more sturdy. But the radish bulbs themselves are starting to form. Let's see if I can get a couple more. There's one right in there. And I've been feeding these now with the diluted water-soluble fertilizer every time that they need to be watered. That's going to give them what they need to continue to grow and to form a radish. In this tray, one side's endive and the other side is lettuce. You can see the germination started again. in about 3 days at those temperatures. And if your lettuce, endive, most of your leafy greens don't germinate really within 10 days, you might have an issue. Today's December 30th, so it's been 28 days since the seeds are put in the soil. That is the arugula right in the front. 6 plants. I thinned it down to a single plant. That is spinach. I forgot what it was. And that's also been thinned to a single plant. These are really tightly packed together, so I'm going to harvest these when they're smaller. They're starting to touch the lights. They're going to need to be dropped down to another level, or I'm going to need to raise the lights. But this is 28 days from putting the seeds into the starting mix, and then the lettuce and the endive. And if you notice right there, an endive seed is just popping up. These should germinate quickly, like within 5 to 7 days, but sometimes seeds sit around, so almost 3 weeks. That seed just popped up. I'm going to remove that. But when you're growing this way, you just want a single plant in each space. These would also make great transplants. You could just get in, cut around here, take out the roots, transplant them into the garden if the time is right. But these are all going to be grown for a cut and come again leafy greens in the house during the winter. I want to do a recap for fertilizing because that's what really confuses people. We're just using a water-soluble fertilizer, and we're reducing the strength to around a 5.55 NP and K. If the strength of your fertilizer is closer to a 5.55 NP and K, when your plants are larger, something like this, you can water them once a week with that 5.55 NP and K. If your fertilizer is closer to a 1.11 NP and K, lower, you could water just about every time or every other time when your plants are that size, something like that. So when your plants are larger, right in there, like the tomatoes down there, you're watering once a week, closer to the 5.55 NPK strength, every day, every other day with a lower dose around a 1.11 NP and K. When your plants are small, something like this, they're going to need their first feeding, in about 10 days, 14 days after germination. And when they're tiny like that, even the ones right down there, you're watering about every 10 days or so with a water-soluble fertilizer. The whole idea is just to go slow and steady with it. Less often, less of a higher dose when the plants are small, and then you can increase it when the plants get bigger. But it's going to vary depending on what type of water-soluble fertilizer you're using, how strong it is, how much you have to reduce it. I just don't want people to overfeed. If you underfeed, the plants turn yellow, just feed them a little bit more. Thanks so much for watching. Please check out my seed shop at therustedgarden.com. I have seeds for $1.50 a pack, except for tomatoes and peppers. They're a little bit more. They're $1.75 a pack, but just about everything is $1.50. If you're interested in perk memberships and having a garden mentor, for $3.99 a month, I do 4 or 5 live Q&As with people. It's usually a group of about, 15 or 20 people for an hour, and I really answer just about any garden question you have, so you can check out my perk memberships. Again, thanks so much for watching.